Hello, hello. It is Tuesday, which means it is time for another Pro Tip Tuesday. So I am back to give you guys my best PR tips to help you win at media. And so we are just going to get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I usually try to multitask and do due diligence or do duty and share this on my personal page, which I might not try to do tonight. But let's just give it one quick second. My computer is moving really, really slow. Okay, here we go. It's just playing over and over and over again. All right, so for those of you guys who don't know me, I am Zanika Chapman, and I am the founder of Polished PR Consulting, where we help developing entrepreneurs package and position themselves into thought leaders and industry experts. And so if you joined us last week for last week's Pro Tip Tuesday, we talked about how to make your content irresistible to media. And so I thought it only be fitting tonight that we follow that up with, what do you do when they actually call you, right? So what do you do when you actually landed that media interview? So I'm going to give you guys my best pro tips for how to land a powerful and confident media interview, no matter the platform. So the first tip I have for you guys is to be prepared. You know, it's really hard for myself or any other PR professional to position you as an industry leader if you don't know what's going on in your industry. So make sure that you know your stuff. Make sure that you've kept up with current trends in your industry, that you know in general what's happening, so that you can speak to that subject matter and really be the subject matter expert during that interview time. So that's the first tip, is be prepared. The second one is to ask questions. And this is one that people really forget, but it's super important. We get so caught up in having secured that opportunity and having that person on the phone and having them want to talk to you that we forget to ask the right questions that we need so that we can be successful in the interview situation. So this is especially important if you are on the defensive. And what I mean by that is this is not a subject that you have proactively pitched to the media, but they're calling you and your company are having to go on the defensive a little bit. And so it's okay, they will typically call and say, oh, like let's use the example of a fitness expert. They'll call and say, oh, I want to talk to you about fitness. You want to then say, what exactly about fitness is it that you want to talk to me about? Oh, well, I hear that you're an expert in running, but such and such just released this major study that shows that running is actually really bad for the body, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. And so what's important about that is, had you not asked that question, had you thought that that person was just calling you to get your expertise on fitness and or running, you would have gone into that interview situation thinking, I'm going to talk about the benefits of running. And the first question they would have said is, so-and-so says that your research and everything that you've built your career on is completely bogus. What's your response to that? And that sucks. I've been in that situation. I've been on the defensive in media interviews, and it is really tough to do so. So that's why you want to ask the questions. If they're calling you about a customer issue, you want to say, it's okay to say, well, who's the customer? What's their complaint? What's their issue? One, it gives you an opportunity to make it right, but two, it helps you prepare so that you can go into your file, so that you can research and understand what's really happening with that particular issue and why that person is calling calling you. And even if it's not a defensive situation, you still want to ask questions. You still want to know, how are you going to interview me? Is this going to be over the phone? Is this a pre-recorded interview, or is it a live shot? Are you going to come to my office, or do you want me to come to your studio? Are you going to email me the questions and I send you a response back if it's a print piece? So you just want to ask all the right questions that you need to ask so that you can be prepared. It's especially important if they want to come to your offices. That gives you an opportunity to really figure out what the optics are around the interview that you're conducting. So it's just another opportunity for you to figure out how you want to visually present your brand. So you always want to be asking the reporters questions. It's not just up to them to ask you questions, but you do have the option and the opportunity to ask some questions. And oftentimes when I ask people that, they'll call me and say, this person wants to talk to me, and I'll say, well, what do they want to talk to you about? What's the interview? And they'll say, oh, I didn't ask. I didn't think that I could ask those type of questions. And you absolutely can. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to deliver the best interview possible? So make sure you ask the right questions, or ask the questions that you need to ask to deliver a great interview. My third tip for you guys is practice. And this is another one that people tend to just kind of glaze over, especially people who have been doing this work for a little while. They think, oh, I don't need to practice. And I'm here to tell you that the majority of us do need to practice. When I ask people, tell me what it is that your business or your organization does, and it is a 15-minute response to get the answer to one question, you just cannot do that in a media situation. You have to be able to clearly, effectively, and succinctly present your information to the audience in a very clear manner. So even if even if you're used to doing media, or you think that you're used to talking about your issue, still practice. Practice who it is and what you do. Practice getting it down to a 30-second answer. Another quick tip to do when you're practicing delivering an interview is ask someone who doesn't know you or doesn't work in your business. You just tell them, say, hey, I'm getting ready to speak on such and such podcast, and I want to know if you would sit down with me and pretend to interview me. And the value in that is 9 times out of 10, that person is going to ask you a question that you have never thought about as it relates to your business and what it is that you do. The benefit of that to you is that it gives you an opportunity to answer questions that you have not considered. And I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been a corporate spokesperson for a while. And there's always a question that I won't say that I'm not prepared, because I prepare for every question, but there's always a question that I did not see coming. I did not think that the reporter was going to ask me that particular question. And that's actually one of the things that I walk people through in my media training sessions, is I walk them through how to craft solid messaging so that you can effectively deliver your message no matter what the question is. But as you're practicing and as you're working through your responses, you want to just ask a friend, phone a friend and ask them to interview you. And not only is it a lot of fun, but it helps you to get your messaging out of your head and speaking them. And a lot of times people will say to me, another thing that they'll say about practice is, well, I don't want to sound like a talking head, so I don't practice anything. And let me just go ahead and tell you, when you don't practice anything, it looks like you don't know what you're talking about. It looks like you're unrehearsed. You look unrefined. What practicing your messaging does for you is it helps you get used to speaking that message in your own authentic voice. So you don't read it and memorize it off of a paper, but you get used to speaking it in a conversational flow. And that's really what you want to deliver when you're doing an interview. You're having a conversation through that reporter to the initial audience. So that is why it's important to practice. If you don't have a partner or somebody that you can practice and bounce your responses off, I will just stand in my mirror sometimes and I will just talk to the mirror. I will ask myself pretend questions. I know it sounds weird. It is weird. It feels weird. It doesn't ever not feel weird. But I will stand in the mirror and ask myself pretend questions, and then I will answer them. Another quick trick for that is to use your cell phone. Turn it on that video mode or flip that camera on you and talk back and look at yourself so you can see your reactions. So you can see if you look one way all the time, or do you tilt your head this way, or do you blink a lot. You want to be able to see what that viewer is going to see. And so practicing in the mirror and using your phone as a way for you to see yourself and hear yourself and understand what you see and look like when you're delivering your messages is a perfect way to rehearse and practice. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is a question I get more than anything, is if I'm going on camera, what should I wear? And my response to that is, you just want to wear something, dress confidently. Wear something that makes you feel like a boss. Wear something that makes sense for you and your business. You know, if you are not a suit and tie guy on a regular basis, don't show up to the TV studio with your suit and tie on. You want to wear something that makes you feel good, that makes you feel confident, that makes you feel like you're going to walk into this interview situation and absolutely kill it. But you want to wear something that is authentically you. And there's tons of information on the internet about if you're darker skin tone, wear this. If you're this shape, wear that. I don't really get into that. I just wear what makes me feel absolutely great. Because if you look good, at least you start to feel good, and that's a great start no matter what. So at least, you know, if nothing else went right in the interview, at least you looked good. And so my 5th tip is don't forget the takeaways. And what I mean by takeaways are whatever those last little tidbits are that really help the reporter to understand what it is that you're trying to convey. If your organization just released a report and there are some numbers in there, then you want to have a fact sheet that kind of breaks down what those numbers looks like. If you just launched a new t-shirt line, you want to wear the t-shirt, or you want to give that reporter that flyer or that pamphlet that highlights that t-shirt. I always have my takeaways prepared before I walk into any interview situation. And if there was a last tip, or a tip number 6, that would be my final tip, is to make sure you know what your objective is when you walk into any media situation. And so while we can't always control the outcome of the media interview, we can control our objectives. So walk into that thing knowing exactly what it is that you want to get out of it, knowing the message that you want to convey for yourself and for your company and for your brand, and then supply the reporter with just the last little tidbits, the package that helps it all come together of the story that you're trying to tell. And so those are my best 5 interview tips. If you missed last week and didn't get the information on how to make your content irresistible to media, please go back and watch that video. I've created a super simple but really, really powerful checklist for you that breaks down all of the things that you want to make sure that you have in your pitch as you're developing your pitch to send to media. So I'll go through them one more time for you, but my top 5 tips for delivering a great interview is to be prepared, ask questions, ask the right questions, practice, dress confidently, and don't forget your takeaways. If you enjoyed this content, then I invite you to share. I know that you guys all have at least one person in your circle who is really, really trying to figure out how to work with media so that they can increase their visibility. Please share this content with that one person. If you have any questions, that you'd like for me to answer on next week or the week after Pro Tip Tuesday, drop them in the comments. I love to read the questions and give you guys feedback of how you can use media to leverage media to build and grow your businesses. So with that, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will be back next week with another pro tip for you guys on Tuesday. And everyone just have a good night. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.